Mishcon Academy digital sessions.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Alex Rhodes. I'm head of Mishcon Purpose. Thank you for joining this Mishcon Academy digital session. This is the first in a collection of conversations that we have called Purpose Matters. And today we're going to be looking at B Corp as a framework for better business. In April, we launched a new sustainability business called Mishcon Purpose, and it aims to help our clients accelerate, manage risks, and seize the opportunities of bringing ESG or environmental, social, and governance considerations into their boardrooms and into the management of their businesses. We decided to do this because our clients were asking us for help, and because we believe as a firm that these issues are fundamental to building resilience and success. In each conversation, I'll be bringing together specialist lawyers from across our firm with leaders in sustainability and responsible business. And I'm really excited in this first conversation to be joined by Nadim Meer, a partner and head of our private equity group, and Chris Turner, who is the executive director of B Lab UK, the organisation which supports the UK B Corp community. And I'd like you maybe just to begin by telling us a bit about, what is B Corp? Where does it add value?
Well, I think the kind of magic when it comes to B Corp and the movement that we're building is it's about business being a force for good. And the way that we do that is by, at its most basic level, it's a certification that businesses get, and they can use that to tell the world about their intent and their work to have a positive impact on the world. And so sitting behind this certification is an assessment. And every business, every B Corp needs to reach a certain threshold, 80 points in that assessment, in order to then have their answers, their responses in the assessment verified. The second big bit of the certification is sort of globally, we call it mission lock. It differs depending on what country you're in, but it's a way of embedding the purpose of the business within the governance. And so the magic, if you like, of B Corp that makes it really special is those two things coming together.
Nadim, this is an interesting way of looking at a business, isn't it? I mean, you head our private equity group. But at the same time, you forged our relationship several years ago with B Lab UK. How are these compatible?
Recently, there has been a change. So whilst it's taken, 30 odd years or so, the financial world, I think, has now finally caught up with the fact that just relentlessly pursuing the bottom line as a way to build value is not sustainable. It's not sustainable for the businesses, nor indeed for the planet. So I think there's been a recognition of that. And for me, sort of the clearest sign of that publicly came last year in August, when the Business Roundtable, which is traditionally very conservative US lobby group, like 200 of the biggest US companies. And last year they issued a statement on the purpose of a corporation. And that was quite radical in terms of what they said, because they stepped away from the guiding principle in running a business and corporate oriented, which was shareholder primacy. And that is something that has been religiously followed for many, many years. So they said, the purpose of the corporation is no longer to advance only the interests of shareholders. And they talked about they had to invest in their employees, they had to protect the environment, and they had to deal fairly and ethically with their suppliers. And they sort of recognized, they said, while each of our individual companies serves its own corporate purpose, we share a fundamental commitment to all of our stakeholders. And they said, we commit to deliver value to all of them for the future success of our companies, our communities, and our country. And coming back to their investors, they've also woken up to that, which I think is part of the reason why the Business Roundtable did. And they've seen that looking beyond short-term value creation is key to a sustainable business. And it will lead to success and better overall returns over a longer period of time. It's kind of really turned around. And when it comes to investment, I think we're now at the situation where B Corp status could actually be a deal clincher to get investment on board.
Chris, I was going to ask you to tell us about a couple of the companies which have certified and why they did it.
A good example is The Body Shop, which certified towards the end of last year. As we all probably know, it's been a sort of, it was established, if you like, as a purpose-driven business. Anita Roddick believed, I think it might even be a direct quote, business as a powerful force for good. But they went through a lot of changes in terms of ownership, and then they were acquired by Natura, which is a big Brazilian B Corp. And so, as a way of if you like, kind of returning to their roots of purpose and figuring out exactly what that meant for all of the sort of the operations of the business, B Corp certification made perfect sense to them. And I suppose another nice example is thinking about The Guardian, because everyone knows that The Guardian is sort of a independent, committed to independent reporting and journalism and has that kind of purpose embedded. But actually, they saw the value of becoming a B Corp in order to think about how they could reflect their values across everything else. So around the same time, they announced some big environmental commitments. And for example, becoming a B Corp allowed them to kind of use our B Corp framework to sort of think about how they would bring those environmental commitments to life.
So, Nadim, we're in the business of helping our clients, with challenges that they're facing. One of the components Chris mentioned earlier was this idea of a legal lock or a mission lock. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what B Corp actually requires a business to do in terms of its constitution, and whether you think it really matters and businesses really have to pay attention to it after they've done it.
So yeah, it does require a legal lock, and in the UK, how that manifests itself is that the company has to incorporate some language into its Articles of Association, so it becomes part of its constitution, which for the corporate lawyers in this group will know that and you need 75% majority to do that. It is a very serious step, and it's a publicly recorded document that sets out what your obligations are. The difference I think it does make is that I was talking earlier about the idea of shareholder primacy, and what the legal lock requires is effectively an override of that, so that the directors are duty bound to consider a broader set of stakeholders, not just the shareholders. I mean, the reality is the legal piece in and of itself, it shouldn't really be anything dramatic, because if a company has decided to become a B Corp, it's because they've got that particular mindset and desire to behave in a particular way.
And Chris, can you just tell us a little bit about the B Corp impact assessment and the standard?
The actual assessment and the verification of a business's assessment is done by an independent organisation called the Standards Trust. It's objective, it's independent, and it's verified. That's so crucial to the kind of credibility of everything that we're trying to do. The assessment itself is done, if it is delivered, if you like, through an online platform, and you work your way through 5 sections: governance, workers, environment, customers, and community. And the average business will answer about 200 questions, but it will totally depend on the size of the business and the sector and the geography. It's a really intelligent tool for kind of capturing all of the information, in terms of a business and the various kind of ways in which that business can have an impact, in order to then assign a score and weight it accordingly, depending on how many people work there and all sorts of things like that. We've set the bar at 80 points, which is high, which is difficult, and intentionally so, so that people who are looking at better ways of doing business know that the B Corp model is one to aspire to.
The third component part of this system is, it seems to me, the requirement to be audited. With the companies you've been working with, is this something that they're taking seriously? I mean, this goes to the heart of their reputation, doesn't it?
It's definitely something that is taken serious, and I think that's only going to increase. Most of the businesses that get certification naturally have a desire to continue to improve their B impact score. And anecdotally, we're speaking to impact investors who have a stated aim of trying to, throughout the the cycle of their investment into their portfolio companies, have made a commitment to improve the B impact score of each of their portfolio companies throughout their cycle. If you look at it from an M&A perspective as well, let's say a target company happens to be a B Corp and it's going through a period of due diligence by the buyer. If you are selling a business, or if you're on the other side and you're buying and it's a B Corp and it's got a glowing B impact assessment audit, that's going to give comfort to the buyer and should actually make the whole sale process smoother.
And that point around the audit brings me on to the next point I wanted to raise, which is how the B Lab process fits in with all of the other processes that are out there for responsible business. Now, on the macro level, all of us will, to a greater or lesser extent, be familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals. How does B Corp relate to those other standards, and in particular the Sustainable Development Goals?
Within the B Impact Assessment, we recognise other kind of accreditations. We're part of kind of the various sort of working groups and collaborations that are in place to try and sort of find the complementary aspects of those frameworks. When it comes to the SDGs, conceptually, the way I look at the SDGs and the BIA kind of sitting alongside one another is, if you like, the SDGs obviously go beyond business. They look at all actors and they look beyond things that business alone can solve. But what they do is they give us that 2030 snapshot of what we want the world to look like. And what I think the B Impact Assessment does, and what B Corps do in taking that assessment, is, if you like, they have the roadmap. They're kind of mapping out the journey to that destination.
And I think maybe to finish, as we look to how we come out of lockdown at the end of COVID, it seems to me that we're not certain of emerging into some kind of utopia of purpose-led business. And so, Chris, one short sentence: are you positive that this is the way we're going to go, or is it got concerns?
In my position, it's hard not to be, when you see the businesses that we see coming to us just for the conversations, just to understand, appreciating this direction of travel, appreciating the need, appreciating the urgency, and wanting to have the conversation. What does it mean for our business? Can you help? It would be hard for me not to be optimistic.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we look forward to having you with us for our next session of Purpose Matters in a few weeks' time. Thank you.
The Mishcon Academy Digital Sessions. To access advice for businesses that is regularly updated, please visit mishcon.com.